Hello, Eagles, and welcome to North Carolina Central University. My name is Lisa Chaplin, and I'm the Group and Outreach Coordinator in the Student Counseling Center. Today, I'll be speaking with you about suicide prevention, the warning signs, and ways that you can support fellow students on campus. Suicide is a major public health concern. Every year, close to 800,000 people take their own life, and there are many more who attempt suicide. It is the 10th leading cause of death overall. Suicidal thoughts, such as making plans and attempts, are often higher among adults between the ages of 18 to 25. Suicide is very complicated and tragic, but it is often preventable. My hope today is by sharing these facts with you, you'll be able to recognize the warning signs and how to get help to save a life. While there is a link between suicide and mental disorders, I think it's important for us to recognize the risk factors and acknowledge that many suicides happen impulsively in moments of crisis, with a breakdown in the ability to deal with life stresses such as financial problems, relationship breakups, or even chronic pain and illness. Other risk factors include depression, low self esteem, experiencing conflict, disaster, violence, substance abuse, or loss, and a sense of isolation. These behaviors are strongly associated with suicidal ideations. Suicide rates are often highest among vulnerable groups who experience discrimination, such as refugees, migrants, indigenous people, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex persons. By far, the strongest risk factor for suicide is a previous suicide attempt. It is important to remember that suicide does not have one single cause. Certain factors like substance abuse and untreated depression can lead to a higher risk of suicide. So if all of a sudden you notice someone extremely preoccupied, talking about suicide, they are withdrawing from their family and friends and teammates, they're making statements about their life worth, they feel hopeless or helpless, there's a dramatic change in mood, such as not getting up, going to class, or performing their daily activities. They seem to have lost their purpose in life and they're giving away their prized possessions. These may just be some of the warning signs. These may be indicators that a person may be in acute danger and may urgently need help. Sometimes people don't feel prepared to talk about suicide, and they feel that talking about it or bringing the topic up is uncomfortable, or if I don't talk about it, the person won't think about it. But if you are concerned about a fellow student or a friend, these are just some preliminary questions that you may ask before you guys decide to reach out for professional assistance. Some things that you can ask your friend could be, do you feel like your mood has changed lately? Have you been feeling sad in the last week or two? Have you felt an increase in stress lately? Has any stressful event happened recently in your life? Have you had thoughts of hurting yourself? Have you felt so bad that you have had thoughts of death or suicide? If that student or friend answers those questions that we previously reviewed, if they answer yes to two or more of those questions, and you are obviously concerned that the student or friend is at risk to harm themselves, you should definitely ask them to speak with someone who can help. That help can look like setting up a meeting or phone call with a mental health professional on campus to assess safety. You could stay with them until they are in a safe environment and have had contact with a mental health professional. You could contact the resident assistant in the dorm, or you can reach out to campus police, who would then take those next necessary steps to ensure that that student receives support, whether that looks like a follow-up appointment or a local visit to the emergency room. Now let's review some myths or facts. Asking someone about suicide will increase the risk of suicide. This is a myth. It has been shown that asking someone about suicide actually lowers their anxiety, opens up communication, and lowers the risk. True or false? Only experts can stop a suicide. That is false. By asking those questions that we discussed earlier, we know that anyone can stop a suicide. All you have to do is show that you're listening, show that you care, and provide support. True or false? Suicidal people don't talk about suicide. Most suicidal people have given some sort of clue or communicated an intent prior to their attempt, so we know that this will be a myth as well. Now let's review some myths or facts as it pertains to suicide. True or false? Those who talk about suicide don't do it. That is a myth. Those who talk about it may try and even complete a self-destructive act. True or false? Once a person decides to attempt suicide, no one can change their mind. That is a myth. Suicide is a preventable form of death. Almost any positive action may save a life. No one can stop suicide. Myth or fact? Yes, it is a myth. If people in crisis get the help they need, they are far less likely to attempt suicide. Earlier, we spoke about some of the risk factors for why people may commit suicide. And now I'd like to review some protective factors that are characteristics that make a person less likely to engage in suicidal behavior. Moreover, protective factors can actually promote resilience and ensure connectedness with others during difficult times, thereby making suicide less likely. Some protective factors include strong connection to family and community support, restricted access to highly lethal means of suicide such as pills, weapons, and if they have easier access to a variety of clinical interventions to support them during this time. Now I'd like you to know these resources that are actually available on campus for any students that you know need support. Our counseling center is in the Student Health Building on the second floor. The phone number is 919-530-7646. At any time, feel free to make an appointment or come by to seek support. Campus Police can be reached at 919-530-6106. So even if there were an attempt or if a student is at harm, after hours, Campus Police will know how to reach out to us. If you like other national crisis lines and support prevention hotlines, you can always dial 1-800-273-TALK, and that number is 8255. These are available 24 hours, 7 days a week. You can also contact 1-800-SUICIDE, at 784-2433. Thank you so much for participating and listening to my presentation today on suicide prevention and how you could strongly stomp out the stigma, particularly surrounding mental disorders and suicide. So many people think of taking their own life or have attempted suicide and are not seeking help and therefore are not getting the help they need. The prevention of suicide has not been adequately addressed due to a lack of awareness of suicide as a major health problem and the taboo in many societies to openly discuss it. So thank you again so much for listening today, and raising awareness and breaking down the taboo is so important to make progress in preventing suicide. Thanks so much.